good volume? I usually speak with a mic, and I have this too, so it's like walking and chewing gum, all right? My name is John Mendiel III. Who am I? I am an instructor or teacher in the Multimedia Technologies program in the School of Tech and Design at Raskin College, Brooklyn Park. Okay? My business card's crazy looking. Basically, I just teach design stuff, all right? And what I'm here to talk about today is color theory, HotNeutral Anchor. Now, I want to preface this before we get started because I want everyone to have the best possible MinneBar experience for themselves. All right? So number one, this isn't going to be about web technology, mobile apps and games, social media, funding, entrepreneurship, startups, and other awesome things. Those are very good things. And there are some blockbuster sessions going on right now, so if you'd rather go to that, that's fine. This is going to be design for the sake of the design for the sake of design. All right? Straight up design minutia. Number two, I'm probably not going to tell you anything you don't already know. All right? Very smart people in here, much smarter and better than I am at this stuff like that. All right? Now, if you don't design every day, you're not in that exact arena, but you're near it, you're like, well, I maybe don't know some of these things. You're going to pick it up just as fast as I'm throwing it. All right? You'll probably predict the next slides that are coming up. All right? So, if it seems a little like I know at first, just I got to set it up. All right? Okay. All right, so HotNeutral Anchor. I know it sounds like a foreign porn film, but it's not, okay? So here's the thing. It started in the classroom, and don't worry, it's not a pitch for Raskin College, all right? Although we do have campus everywhere. Anyway, it started as a problem in the classroom, a problem in my color theory class, right? I teach color theory. We have a long name, but that's basically what it is. And we go through all these things. And one of the things we touch on early is the 12-point subtractive color wheel. Yay! And I say that, we didn't just have this, there weren't cavemen from Geico like scratching this on the wall, okay? Like it took a while to get there. And so these are 12 colors to symbolize all the colors, right? There's an infinite amount of colors in between these, right? And all around these. Kind of like one ring to rule them all, all right? And really, the rubber hits the road with their brains when we talk about the color relationships, all right? Complementary colors. And the students are like, I didn't know purple was the opposite of yellow. Right? And I say, yeah, it is. So what other relationships like a double split complementary, right? It's like richer, more engaging color experience. We talk about triadic color scheme. And this one makes them smile, makes them feel good. Because everybody talks about red, yellow, and blue in their kids, right? Which I tell them that's why I think about this when I think of triadic color schemes. But that's probably because I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old, and the 7-year-old has autism, so they fight over the same big wheel. All right? So then we move on to stuff like this, the quadratic color scheme. And this is where the students stop. And instead of saying, and they're like, does that look good? Like, can you? Really? If so, so-and-so's outfit got better. And I like it when they start asking these questions because they're not just taking everything as I'm throwing it to them, right? They're not just reading the book and be like, yeah. They start to think critically about color, maybe for the first time. One of the students would say, one thing I like about color theory class is I didn't know that all this stuff mattered. I'm like, yes, your whole program matters, including color. Okay? So we move on from there, and we'll talk about CMYK and RGB, and we show the additive color wheel. Right? I know there are fancy models out there, and people have a lot of Photoshop filter fun when they make additive color wheels. I like this one because it's like a Venn diagram, but with 3 bubbles. Okay? And it shows a beautiful inverse relationship between these 2 models of creating and measuring color. And like, the wheels are turning, they start to get it. And this is all good, and we talk about all that. And then we talk about the emotions behind color. All right? Now, I think this book is fantastic for the emotions behind color. Who here has this book? All right? Everyone go get it. Now, you're like, but I work in the web space. And I'm like, just chop off the word Pantone, okay? It's all the same. I'm serious. It's just color. Like, what's 286? I don't know, but it's probably blue. Okay? So you just go with it. And if I'm wrong on that, that's okay. All right? What I like best about this book is it's really wide in scope as far as the sociological, the economical, fashion sense that has to do with color. And then it gets really practical, like scientific. Like, how does your eye even interpret color? What does it mean? Things like red sets off your blood pressure more than any other color that there is. Okay? And it talks also about, like, the whole back section of the book is just like these spreads with like a big emotion word like sweet or serene, or traditional, or powerful, and it shows a whole bunch of possible color combinations to be used as starting points, right? And again, if you don't want to use Pantone, just chop that word off and just take the color for what it is. So we talk about all these things. You know, we'll talk about stuff like yellow is happy, right? Aww. And it's caution. Okay? And we talk about how and bugs freak me out. That's why I was cautious about it, all right? And then we talk about how red is passion, right? This is love. This is sex. This is erotica, right? This is all those primal urges you have, and it's also danger. Okay? And we talk about this, not to confuse them, but to give them an idea of like every color that you have sends a message, just like the colors that you don't have send, the message not being sent. You see what I'm saying, right? Like everything you don't include is just as important as everything that you do include. All right, and I apologize if I'm talking too fast or too high pitch. I just had a Mountain Dew. All right? So we talk about these things, and they marinate on them, right? And I say, okay, now it's time for the project. Now, I love the project. I have ever since I was in college. Because I think, and I probably have to think this because I'm a teacher at a college, but the project is the best assessment tool, right, for what do the students know? Not just can you write about a topic, like it's some distant thing from you, and you're just like, oh, but I have things to say, right? And it's not just a test where you can prove that you understand the jargon and you can understand the basic themes, right? Basically spit back out what I just told you. Can you tell it to me back? And I think the project is good because it forces students to say, here's stuff I learned. Here's stuff I'm thinking about. I'm going to distill all that, right, into my worldview, and I'm going to interpret it back out. And to show that I understand, and also to show that I can challenge and defy those things, right? As far as I'm concerned, personally, my kind of viewpoint as a teacher is when you start defying and challenging, that's the highest level of understanding as far as I'm concerned, right? Everyone here knows, rules are meant to be broken, right? And it's why I can love somebody like Joseph Mueller-Brockman and also love David Carson, right? All at the same time. It's okay. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, not that big of a deal. All right. Now, we have all big projects that are a term long. We have week-to-week projects, stuff like that, and say, okay, now you got this. Here you go. Show me what you got. We'll see you next week. We'll talk about them. And they might make something like this. If you're not sure, that's bad. Okay? If you're not sure, it's really bad. Now, I'm not trying to diss my Rasmussen students, right? I bleed green and gold, okay? And I'm from Wisconsin, so I bleed two kinds of green and gold. All right? But I'm a Minnesota fan, too. Lived here for a while now. All right. Now, this actually isn't student work, okay? So they're not that bad. And it never looks, the color combinations aren't that terrifying, okay? I'm exaggerating, right? I'm trying to make a point. I got a lot of people that keep interested here. All right? And we'll talk about it, in the large group. In a critique session, we'll also talk about it one-on-one, kind of during work time or lab time. And I'll go to that person and say, because they always ask me, what do I think? I tell them, what do you think? And they say, well, I think it's all right. I'm learning. We have a lot of students that kind of go back to school, okay, for our students. So the confidence isn't always the highest thing, so we build that up. Anyway, and I say, this is very electric and exciting. I'm just talking about the color, not the content. Forget the fish. Okay, that's just green something, okay? I say, you got to turn some of the lights out on this sucker. This is way, way, way too, right? It's just too much. You got to vary your things in tone and intensity, right? And with Mr. Mendiola, I use that double compla split thing, right? And look, I have the green and the dark green, and I have the red and the reddish purple. Look, I did that. And I say, you know what? A for effort. You did it. And that shows me, that's actually a good sign, right? They can get it. Whether they kind of agree with the color combination or not, they're putting them together. But you got to vary in tone and intensity. I tell them, you don't have to restrict yourself to the Corolla 12-pack here, okay? There is not just colors this way between them, right? There's colors this way and out here, right? So if any of you have looked at kind of color models, they're really nerdy, okay? If you looked at them, you might see something like this. Munsell, right? He's from way back in the day, and he made these color charts. And this is a common exercise. Colleges across the country, students have to create Munsell color charts. Does anyone here how to do that? It's pretty interesting, right? I won't say it's exciting, but it's interesting. Now, the Munsell color chart's great because it really forces you to see that colors have all these different properties, right? They have hue, they have tone, and they have intensity. And you vary the amount of gray and black and white in them, and it changes the color entirely. How red's related to pink, is related to maroon, is related to this, is related to that. Now, you do that, but the Munsell never really intended for it to be used as kind of like a color scheme generator. okay, or a color applier to things as you're working on them. It was just a way to identify and understand how they're related. Okay, just like the 12-point color wheel is a way to identify and understand how they're related to each other. So that's the problem, right? The problem is, why can't this stuff happen before? Why can't the mindset of not just vary my hues or my colors, but vary the tone and intensity of those colors? Why can't that happen before they turn it in, right? While they're working on it, as they start to think about which colors they might use. Some of you in the audience right now are like, teacher guy, this isn't freaking rocket science, right? Number one, they're still learning. If they're in a color theory class, they're very early in the program, okay? It's a foundational program, or foundational course in a program. So give them a break, right? They made an electric fish. At least it was all centered, right? Things like that. Okay, I understand that, but my kind of comments back to this comment, which I'm assuming you're all commenting right now in your heads, you don't have to tweet it, it's fine, is, okay, they are learning, but the fact that they can't see it while they're working on it, in other words, they can't see that it's disturbingly bad while they're working on it, is a problem, right? Isn't that a problem? Right? Like, for those familiar with visual vibration, right? It's a huge thing, like web design. You can't have like two high chroma colors, especially when it's small text on top of each other, right? You get that kind of, that bouncy effect, you know what I'm talking about? And I have to explain this hour-long thing, what visual vibration is to them. But I'm like, I wish you could just see this and know it, dang, maybe I'll just use white, okay? Or black. And so that's one thing. The other thing somebody might be thinking is, just tell them the line you were talking about during feedback time, vary your colors in tone and intensity, right? If you just tell them that, won't they start to do that, right? Tell them, remember the Munsell chart? Remember this? Remember how it's not just between red and orange and reddest orange and redder, orange, right? It's browns and things like that and pinks. But I think that if I were to tell them this, and I do, it's too vague. Vary your colors in tone and intensity, because they'll say, which ones? All of them? Oh, just one of them, right? They get confused. They're not sure how to do it. They don't know the recipe, so to speak, right? You all hear big-time designers and developers. You know recipes. You know things that look good, right? They don't. They're still learning. And so I wish I could give them something as concrete and as obvious as something like a complementary color scheme, a triadic color scheme, right? You just look at the chart, follow the arrows, pick the swatch, good to go, right? At least that's where it starts. I want to give something concrete. So that's the problem, okay? Now, while this problem is going on, right, so outside of the classroom now, so we're going to move outside of the classroom. I frequent blogs and websites just like everybody else here, right? And you see the ubiquitous post of 30 great website designs, 10 cool rock posters from history, and half of them are Jimi Hendrix, And it's like 15 cool business cards, and here's where you can buy 15 business cards, right? And stuff like that. And I started noticing that a lot of them, they're very different looking from each other, right? One thing is consistent along a lot of them is the types of colors that are used. Not the colors themselves, but the types of colors that are used, right? And that's where I kind of arrived at this idea, HotNeutral Anchor. And there are three types of colors that are used in a lot of these. Not every single one, but in a lot of them. There's three types of colors, okay? And so I developed this, and I'm still developing it. So I don't know if you saw the long description, okay, as people were signing up for things, and I might attend that, maybe. This is still new to me, okay? I'm still working on it. And if some of you here like, hey, I already know that, that's fine, okay? I don't, okay? So there's three kinds of colors, and it's a flexible and modular prescription for balanced and complete design, right? Things that look whole, things that look finished, things that look rich, okay? And so what I noticed is there are three types of colors. And the first one I noticed is a hot color, right? And usually all of them is a hot color. A saturated, intense, bright color, right? The rich color. This would be kind of like the lead singer in a band, okay? This is the sex symbol in the movie or the TV show, right? Like Penny on The Big Bang Theory, okay? Don't act like you don't watch it, all right? So this is the one that screams out, grabs your attention, and pulls you in, right? So it makes your pupils dilate a little bit, all right? Then there's a second type of color that a lot of them have. It was a neutral color. Okay, I was going to have a flag of Switzerland, but I don't want to piss anybody off. Although I guess talking about it probably pisses them off. All right. I love Switzerland. You guys make great cheese. Okay. And it's not just earth tones, right? I mean, this is kind of earthy looking, but it's not just earth tones that are neutral colors, right? There's grays. There are other colors like you have mint, right? A light periwinkle, maybe a mauve, a cream, right? Things like this. It's kind of, if I were to use the band analogy again, this is the drummer, right? This is the guy just keeping the beat in the background. Sometimes you might get a drum solo every now and then, right? Like a different page in the site or in the booklet. But this is just kind of setting the table, so to speak, right? Providing that backdrop. The third kind of color is an anchor. Okay, this is the dark, heavy color. As far as I'm concerned, this is the most important of the three, as far as kind of the recipe of these three ingredients goes. Because this is what it weighs it down. It gives it that necessary gravity, right? Kind of holds it in place. It kind of keeps the colors from being kind of medicine-heady, right? Where they kind of float around because they're all bright, light, and airy. Or from sliding up the table, whatever. And if I was to follow the band analogy again, this would be kind of like the bass guitar, right? Or the, right? You know, like the guy, like the really deep tones, right? The reason why you buy a subwoofer, okay? So I think these three colors exist. And why? Because a lot of you are like, yeah, okay. I think that the combination of all three at the same time. Now, I haven't talked about what the colors, I'm going to give an example of what these colors could be, but I think just mixing these three, not against the color models we talked about earlier, right, the traditional ones, but kind of over the top of, or underneath, or inside of, right, can help. And, oops, come on. Was I a slide behind before? Hot, neutral, anchor. I don't do this very often, okay? All right. Okay. Hot, neutral, anchor, all at the same time. So it's like erogenous zones. And I don't want to make anything weird. Okay, I'm not going to go on a Robin Williams skit here. I'm just saying that it's like erogenous zones, and here's what I'm talking about. Everyone here has erogenous zones, plural, right? There's not just one, right? Some people it's lips, or the back, or the waist, or the foot. I don't get that one, but some people like the foot, right? So there's all these different erogenous zones going on. And you all know, or can imagine, what it's like to have one erogenous zone, let's just say, paid attention to. Okay? You know what it's like when one is paid attention to, right? Kind of like, uh-huh. I need to smoke, right? But like, you know what one it feels like, right? But you also know what it's like when three or more, let's just say, I don't know who you all are, right? Three or more are paid attention to at the same time, right? That's a totally different experience. Right? I mean, you can't even compare the two. You start to feel this interconnectedness that you didn't know you had before. Okay? And think about what, I guess you call it the fatigue factor, after both types of situations would be, right? And the one, it's like getting done swimming, okay? Your whole body's just like, right? So why am I talking about erogenous zones? Not because I'm a freak, okay? It's because I think that the way that your body has erogenous zones that like to be tended to all at the same time and hit in different ways, right? Sometimes it could be kissing or like with the hand or something like that, is because I think our eyes, when they see things, they would like it if all these different erogenous zones of your eyes, or visible spectrum, were paid attention to all at the same time. Just talk right, the hot, that bright, saturated, rich color, the one that makes your eyes go, right? Then you got the neutral color. That's when your eyes are just like, right? And then you get that base, and that's what kind of keeps your eye focused, right? Okay, or the anchor. I'm sorry. I'm still learning this. Okay. The anchor is what kind of holds it all together and gives you that kind of staccato back and forth. So let's look at some examples. These are some things I started to notice. Hot, neutral, anchor. This one's pretty obvious, right? The three entirely different kinds of colors. There's the hot color, the yellowish acid color, the gray color, and the anchor color. Okay? And even though they're very different from each other, they don't seem like they should relate, they work. Right? Here's a poster, hot, neutral, anchor. And even down here in the bottom, there's like some mixing, right, of the tones and hues and stuff like that, but it still works, right? It's got that whole and complete thing. Again, your eye is kind of getting hit in multiple ways all at the same time. Another one, hot, neutral, anchor. I was hoping people would cheer when that one came up. All right, anyway. This worked. Almost the same color scheme as the one before, right? The acidic yellow, the softer grays push up top, and then the darker grays down at the bottom. The hot, neutral, anchor thing going on. You see, it's almost like a recipe for success, right? And here's another one. Anyone been here before? Okay, I know it's lunch, after lunch, okay? Well, come on. All right. Yeah, skee ball, right? Yeah. All right. So hot, neutral, anchor, and actually deeper in the site, the other pages, this is the home page, deeper in the site, that kind of macaroni yellow is integrated throughout the site better, okay, throughout the areas of the page. So HotNeutral Anchor. Now, let me see what's next. Okay, good. So now I may be thinking, okay, I'm catching what you're throwing. This all makes sense, and maybe, like I said, to a lot of you, it's not anything you ever heard before. But if we want to hit all the erogenous zones of our visible spectrum, so to speak, at any one thing at a time, does this become a recipe for, like, standard, right? For generic, for baseline. See what I'm saying, right? Like, does this become something that totally doesn't push the envelope, right? So kind of like, for any of you like are deeply kind of intimate with color, it's like you got a rainbow of colors, you got no colors, right? Is it that kind of thing? Well, that's where I think that this can be flexible and modular. I don't think all the time, right? Think about your personal life. Not all the time do you desire or need all three erogenous zones paid attention to at the same time, right? Sometimes just one or two will do. Or sometimes, like, can we pay more attention to this? Maybe less attention to that? See what I'm saying, right? Again, I'm not trying to make... I'm going to get some weird tweets after this, okay? So what I think is that that's why there's hyphenated. Like you can break them apart and put another one in its place. Okay? Depending on the kind of effect you're going for. So this one, I haven't been here, but I would love to go there and just walk through. It's not even order anything. Hot Anchor, right? Got all these bright colors and that deeper color, which still is relatively pretty heated up, right? That brown is really not all that dark. Okay? And the menu is just as cool, too. I don't know where Garrick is, but he could probably comment on how cool the typography is here. And then stuff like this one, this is a little bit of a stretch, but like a hot, the yellow or yellow and white, and then the blue, the anchor, and the blacks and grays in the bottom of the anchor. Okay, totally different feel, right? Doesn't say feel balanced and whole and complete and wholesome and all that. It's more higher contrast, right? Because the neutral's been left out of the equation. And then you got something like this, neutral anchor, all right? Softer. You could argue that the cyan or whatever color that is a hotter color, but still it's pretty soft and subdued, okay? So it's like a neutral anchor. And this makes sense, right? When you go to a caribou, it's not like, hey! Right? Which is, okay, I'm going to put a little aside here, okay, brackets. Doesn't it seem weird that like if you go to a bar, right, and they serve alcohol, which is a depressant, right, that people are like, yes! 300, right, or 301 or whatever. And you go to a coffee shop, but it's serving caffeine all over the place, and they're just like, doesn't that seem weird? Shouldn't it be the other way around? I don't know, I'm just saying. Okay. So, but because coffee shops are pretty chill, right, to the point where if you're not chill, they'll kindly ask you to leave, right? Let's make that mocha to go, okay? Neutral anchor, so that kind of softer, subdued, and kind of heavy, like the earthiness from the anchor coming down there. And this one, neutral anchor. This seems really grim, which is weird because it's texture lovers. It makes you wonder about the kind of love people have for textures, if it's just grim. But I don't know if you can see the colors very well, but like the top is like a brown leathery texture color. And then over here it's kind of like a black denim. And then the neutral colors are the grays. And even, notice, even where it's the brightest, it's still a neutral color, right? That kind of tan or ochre or whatever that is. Okay? So it's flexible, it's modular. You can kind of use these components as you need to, based on the kind of message you're trying to put out there. The feel, I should say, trying to put out there. I don't know if that went really fast or really long. So here's what I'm wondering. The whole rest of the time, and if we end early, that's fine. I want some feedback from you all. Because I wasn't maybe going to present this until I kept getting the emails, hey guys, could use more sessions. I'm like, okay. This will be a lot more work. I want to know, like, does this seem something that's effective? And more so than that, does it seem something that's useful? Is this worth considering while you're working on something? Or it's the idea of thank you. Okay. And also, so besides that, I want to know what methods do you all have for color scheme generation? Okay, because everyone has totally different methods. From the very scientific, you got to do this, which is kind of, it's kind of recipe oriented, to the kind of like, right? I got it! Like the aha moment, right? So everyone has different things like that, okay? I usually get those moments when I'm going to the bathroom or shower. Because I got 2 kids. That's the only time I get them quiet, all right? I'm there, I'm like, yes! I got it, okay? And like, what if you got to work with an established brand, right? A lot of people work for agencies that serve big clients or small clients, and they're like, this is our look. You get whatever, we want you to make these deliverables, but it's got to be in this look and feel. So what do you do when you're confronted with that? Is HotNeutral Anchor something that can kind of come into the mix there? Or does that push too far away from what they have? And I also want to hear any criticism, anything from the words that I used, like a HotNeutral Anchor, to things like, I see what you're trying to go for, but this whole plan, this prescription or whatever is off base or whatever, or this has been done before, you're missing this, what about that? I want to hear that because, okay, everybody, I can take it, okay? Look at this. I'm a pretty thin gentleman, right? God didn't bless me with huge muscles. He gave me bones and layers and layers and layers of thick skin. All right? It's all right. I'm not going to cry. At least not now, okay? So it's all right, okay? I didn't cry when my daughter was born, which is weird. And she's going to be 2 this month. And so I keep waiting. And one day, like, when's this going to all hit? I'm going to be in the middle of the classroom. So we're talking about this. And I was, oh, my God. So happy. Right? Like, when's that going to happen? I'm scared. Okay? I'm just glad it didn't happen now. All right? So, feedback. This is the hand raising and talking time. All right? Right there.
So how would you use HotNeutral Anchor to fix the fish?
Fix the... This guy's showing off. All right. I'm going to tell you what I tell my students. One more of those and you're out of here. All right? I'll go way back here. I should have the fish at the end. Okay. First of all, the double complementary, right? Again, this is just an example. This isn't real student work. That's fine, right? That's fine. I would, I think things like, there is contrast definitely between the fish and the words, right? But they're both bright. They're both screaming for my attention. I think things like introducing some black and white in there, you know what I mean? Stepping outside the restrictions that you may feel from this helps. Making does the green need to be neon, right? Does it need to be fuchsia? Or can we use purple, right? I think things like that. That kind of, and this is vague, so in other words, that's a good question because I think HotNeutral Anchor says use these 3 types of colors in your work, right? I'll get to you in 1 second. But the percentages of each color as it's represented is totally up to you, right? So some of those were like, all kinds of dark and a little bit of hot, a little bit of neutral, but it's still considered HotNeutral Anchor, right? All right, in the back. Do you mean how do I go from the colors I'm thinking of to making sure they fit in this, or what do you mean? Uh-huh. Yeah, so if I was an app maker guy, I totally would try to make one for this, but I'm not. So I was online, before I pretend I wanted to make sure that phraseology, HotNeutral Anchor, wasn't already used by someone. So there's all kinds of websites for free, right? I think Cooler is a really popular one, right? Kuler. You go in there and you can play with it. There's another one I found. I don't remember what it was called. It's probably something as simple as freeonlinecolorgenerator.com. Yeah, and it was this one where it's you can pick your colors or whatever. Let's just say it's 3. And there was, I don't know what it was called, some kind of difference slider or whatever they called it. And it was if you dragged it way to one end, there were very sedated and muted colors, right? But they were still your colors. They were just kind of all neutralized. If you dragged it to the other end, you got a wider array of saturation levels, of tone, of things like that. But they were all still certainly the colors that you chose. Is that kind of what you're talking about? I mean, I wish I had one to say oh, go here because it's awesome. Color lovers? The British way? Okay.
Color lovers is really nice because you can search by word. So, say you're trying to achieve a certain emotion,
Sure.
something like that, you can type that in, and then you'll get those corresponding pronouns, and then you can go in and edit them.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. That Pantone book I talked about, it had the kind of basic emotions. If you want something serene, use a lot of soft, subdued colors, right? If you want something spicy or tangy, use all these high-end fish colors. The one I thought was the most interesting, I kind of skip over all those because they're very basic, I think, is this whole section. It's like capricious 1, capricious 2. I don't like capricious is a weird word. I think it's because they don't know how to define the emotional response you might get from those color combinations, but they're all super awesome. They're a lot more like inventive, I think, and exploratory than like, well, if you want powerful, start with black and add a color to it. You know what I mean? Like, that's for me. Who else? Right here. I'm going off this guy. Yeah. Right. 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 So like hot neutral anchor is an umbrella for other emotional responses. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good like path to kind of keep going with this. Yes. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Well, yeah, I think I forgot to mention that the anchor actually could be saturated or desaturated or anywhere in between, as long as it's the darkest tonality-wise. Yeah. Right. Right. That's yeah. And so like this is just about. You're right. This is like kind of a color in a silo, so to speak. Right. I think that things like typography, positioning, scale, gestalt, all those things are very important. And this is just like, you've got those things figured out, but maybe the colors are just kind of missing. They feel like a little dead or a little this or a little that. This is kind of like I think a recipe just for the color part of it, definitely. So the fish, could use a lot of other things besides color changes, right, to get better. Like it's centered, big deal. Someone over here, yes. Good question. Very good question. So this is very new to me still. It kind of like aha'd after a while. I kind of mention it here near the end because again, it wasn't like I didn't want to make it an official part of the curriculum if this is totally going to crash and burn. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, "Wait, are we talking about boats?" Right? And so I'm kind of like the last two. We have quarters of us. In the last 2 quarters or half a year, I'm kind of marinating on this a little bit, and the kind of motivation to really like synthesize this all together, with examples and things like that, kind of came in preparing for today. So definitely going forward, it's going to be a unofficial part of my class. You know what I mean? Whether other instructors in the college use it or not is fine. I just want to then I can almost have a case study style, right? This is the idea I had. Here's what I think works. We kind of distribute it in the class, and now does it work it better overall? Now, I do think, like I said, the discussions of vary in tone, vary in intensity, not just in hue, we have those conversations. We may not give it that exact terminology, right? We have the conversations. That was the wrong one to stay on. There we go. Vary in vary in tone and intensity. We have a conversation, but not like in an efficient, succinct way. You know what I mean? And again, that happens, like I said, after they've turned in some work. So I want to see just what happens. And then, so that by the end of the quarter, they do get better. But I think if I started with something like this from the get-go, just as explaining the traditional color models and wheels and this and that, that it can help that. That's my hope. So that, it's not this 11-week process of getting it nailed down. It's as they're thinking about it week 1 and 2, they're starting to think in these lines. In the middle, right there. Very lightly and briefly. I probably should look deeper into it. I was kind of searching I have to think since color's been around a lot longer than I have, that other people, much more talented than myself, have created an ideology that's better than this. You know what I mean? It's very similar to this. For anybody that went to design, who here like went to design or art school or something like that? Okay, or some kind of training in it. This isn't brand new, is it? Right? Exactly. And so what I think that kind of like merit, so to speak, for HotNeutral Anchor is I think it kind of just like synthesizes a bunch of ideas that are good into this quick little term that you can use. It's almost like a checkpoint along the way, right? Like I got my typography, my layout done. I got this, I got that. Colors, okay, I think they're good. Does it meet this? You know what I mean? It would be like a step along the way. It doesn't have to be the beginning. And again, it's not in the face of other color theory practices and mindsets. It's just like something like, if you end up with a fish, bust out HotNeutral Anchor and see what happens. Someone was over here. Yes. That's a good idea. Yeah, because it's a totally, I shouldn't say different color palette, but the color needs are different, right? So you might be like more neutrals, for example. It's like the first thing that comes to mind, but it's because I've limited interior design understanding. What are your thoughts on it? You did? Okay. Exciting and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a good point. I think like this works because like, even if a website is infinitely large, right? It's kind of like it's only this big on my screen, and so it's not like too much to take in, right? It's kind of like if all of your erogenous zones were tended to all the time, no matter where you were and what you were doing, that was already bad, right? Not good. Sounds good, but I don't think it would end up good. Also, like on that point, and I'll get to you in one moment, is does anyone like watch like those HGTV or DIY type shows and stuff like that? My wife calls me a fruitcake for watching them. I tell her, this is important, quiet. There's this one, it's like how to sell your house or something like that, or quick sale or whatever. And basically, they have a small team go through, and they kind of go through, let's just say like 2 rooms, like the kitchen and living room is what they usually do, and maybe like the front entrance area. And one thing they do is, like you said, sir, neutralize everything, right? That bright red leather couch is cool, but not for everybody. Let's go with soft taupe, right? Let's go cream on the walls and eggshell for the porcelain things, okay? I'm not a homeowner, I'm a renter, so I don't even know what porcelain is. And so I think it would change to the point where maybe it's totally irrelevant, Who is next? Right here. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see what you're saying. So like it's more like layout, color theory oriented. Yeah, I think like, yeah. I'm not saying that this is going to answer all the color theory problems in the world. I'm just saying like, when you're working something that's, let's just say, this big, right? Whether it's print or web or whatever, or maybe in the app, right? Whatever interfaces are there, buttons or what have you, can make use of this. But then, one logo might only have one color. Yeah, and then it's like, it's even a narrower silo, right? What's the exact reaction we need to get? What's going to be part of our message? This is good stuff. Yes?
Just to validate this, something that we use
Aw.
in marketing, hot call to action, still being the backdrop.
Okay, yeah.
Directly for a marketing aspect. Hot is that call to action.
Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, because if you start reversing them, yeah, it's like you want a bright red background, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, neutral buttons or black buttons and neutral text, things like that. Thank you for validating. Yeah, this definitely has limitations, though. We'll get back to you in a second. Way in the back.
Outside of academic area, in commercial phase, what is the typical reasonable time frame for from start to finish for finding color? Do you have any guidelines for that?
Yeah, I've been a teacher full time for a number of years now, so I'd love to hear from people that are like in the game, so to speak, day in and day out.
It's a lot of our clients that come to us. They've actually, for one just recently, because they were working on color schemes years before they had a color scheme in mind. But when you work by committee, if there's a group or a committee that's working on your business, you find that it takes them multiples longer. If it's one individual that's got this mindset, we hate doing logos. We don't want to do logos. It's terrible. I absolutely hate the logos because there's so much right into that color scheme. So it's getting them on board and something that we tell our clients is go to color lovers and look through, spend several hours, and they will. They'll spend several hours and they'll tell you, and then you'll give them some advice. They'll take that advice, they'll say, you know what, I agree with you, and then you don't have to go back and forth afterwards. Oh, now there's other things. These are the colors I think are right, unless they say, we have no idea, we don't care. You do all the picking of the colors, but that direction. But it's a time-consuming thing, and it's very difficult once you've developed something for them to say that, or you want to set it up so that they can't come back and say, well, I don't like that. Sorry.
The issue I see is it's very subjective. There's very little objectivity.
Well, okay, I heard.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's totally valid. That's totally valid. I kind of force myself to be of the belief that things like design principles and color, being in that arena, that objectivity is important. You know what I mean? And to strive for that is important. Now, you're of course going to get the CEO who has known nothing about design. Who's like, doggone it, burnt orange was a Corvette I had. And that's what we're going with. Right? That's going to happen. It's going to happen. But what I'm saying is, like, obviously it's going to be more than just burnt orange, right? You can't have burnt orange text with burnt orange pictures and a burnt orange background. So I think that's where the recipe comes in. If you're going for objectivity, because one other thing I put in the notes before speaking today was like, HotNeutral Anchor I think is good, not just for the creative folks that are going to be using it potentially, but for like to explain it to someone who's not a creative or would identify themselves as one. I try this on my wife. Okay, she's about as far from a designer as you can get. Okay, like speculation, for example, not in her vocabulary. And I said, honey, dear, hot. Does that make sense to you? Like, do you understand that's the bright color? She's like, yeah. Neutral? Yeah, everyone kind of knows what neutral is already. Anchor? She's like, So it's like the heavy one that weighs it down. Oh, like an anchor. Yeah, like an anchor. Okay? So I think that, and again, I'm not saying it's fail-safe or foolproof, but I think it can, it's words that pop into my head, right? Words that I'm already using. So I think that to eliminate as much subjectivity as possible is what designers do. I had something else really awesome to say. Let's go to this gentleman first, and then to someone else.
To address the previous question real quick, organizations who invest a lot in will try to set up a guideline, a design language, or identity that will drive all those decisions for the color palette,
Mm-hmm.
for good or for bad. But at least there's some standard in place that will help choices as they're doing this. That's one answer. The other thing that's interesting about this is I do product design, and this is our general rule. Any interaction point in the product generally has a hot or a highlight color. And the rest of the product.
That's a different session.
Between a neutral and so used a lot, especially on consumer products.
Okay. Yeah, this gentleman said like anchors often used for like the text, right, the content or whatever. That's kind of a cheap way to get it, but it works, right? I mean, often you're gonna want your text to be white or black, especially like body copy, right? Over here.
Yeah, in the interest of being subjective about this, is there a way you can define this, rubric, like, hot must
almost like a percentages game or like a Munsell type thing. Yeah, that's totally a good idea. Yeah, no, that's totally a good idea. And I was thinking like, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but like white, for example, could often be the hot color, right? Because what's brighter than white? But if you have another bright color, like it's like red or pink or orange, whatever, then white can be that neutral color, right? Explain to my students that white's also an earth tone freaks them out. Like, yeah, we have bones, okay, and other things that are white. So, oh yeah, there's some hands over in this area, weren't there? Yes. Right. 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 Yes, exactly. Has anyone here ever done direct mail? Okay? Totally different set of what works, right? It's often not the sexy looking one, right? According to like, other designers and like, huh? You're right. Yeah. I mean, think about the things that, like, I put up that yellow caution sign, right? That, like you said, it serves a very singular purpose of just like, hey, don't go there. Slow children. And we're not just talking about parenting, okay? It's like, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm looking, this would be for like things that you want to engage people for a while. You're right. The fish, and you know, hey, if you're the Electric Fish techno band, is it band for techno? Or gentle folks, right? I think that works. And like again, also it's flexible modular. So you know, maybe hot anchor is the right. Like that chicken one, it had like 13 hot. Okay, it was like 5. It had like 13 hot colors in there. So I think that's where it works. And I mean, as I even say that, I don't even know if it becomes that flexible and that modular. Is it still one idea? Is it still one recipe? Oh no. Hmm? Mm-hmm. Have I? I've looked at, yeah. What? No, keep going. Yeah, I totally agree. Yes. Anything else? Otherwise, we can go. That's fine. Last one.
This wasn't obvious. All these questions are basically asking you to write a book. You can show clients.
Aw. All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for hearing me. Have fun.